A man takes out a magnifying glass to scrutinize the wedding photo and he noticed that his wife's fingers were in the sign of the cross. This gesture means to ask for God's forgiveness, which meant that their marriage was never meant to be. But Truman didn't push her buttons. He wanted to see what the woman he'd been with for so many years was hiding. Before his wife left for work, Truman gave her a reminder. She froze for a moment and then gave Truman one of his standard fake smiles and rushed off to work. In order to find out what was going on, Truman secretly followed his wife. Just arrived at the hospital where she worked, he was stopped by a strange doctor. She was preparing for surgery and couldn't see him for a while. Truman laughed in anger, pretended to turn around and leave the hospital, then suddenly turned around and rushed towards the deepest part of the operating room. But the next second, the patients and staff in the hospital all tacitly began to block Truman, and with great difficulty, he was able to get away from them. He finally made it to his wife's operating room, but these actors don't know how to do surgery. Their poor acting was full of flaws. Truman was stunned. Not only is his love fake, but everything here is probably fake. Immediately afterward, Truman arrived at the company without stopping. He ignored the security guards and forced his way into the elevator, and because it was so sudden, the set hadn't even been completed yet. Truman felt a sense of dread. He decided to leave the town to find his first girlfriend, but the travel agency, after checking around, said it would take a month at the earliest to get a plane ticket. Truman had no choice but to choose another mode of transportation, but when he managed to get a ticket, the bus broke down in a very cooperative manner, and the passengers on the bus didn't even complain. They all got off the bus in a hurry. That made Truman realize that he was living in some kind of script. Everyone here follows a fixed route, and when he got home, Truman signaled for his wife to get in the car, and then he forced him to leave town. The empty streets suddenly became crowded, preventing Truman from leaving, but he didn't give up. He said he was going home, but in fact, he drove in a circle, and drove down that street again, and this time, all the cars blocking his way disappeared. Truman made it to the bridge unimpeded. His wife knew that Truman was afraid of the sea. She began to urge him to turn around and go home, but Truman pressed his wife's hand on the steering wheel. He closed his eyes and hit the gas. He made it to the other side of the bridge without a hitch. Despite the flaming obstacles on the way, Truman sped past them, but the director wouldn't let him get away with it. There's a nuclear leak blocking the road. The police came to him and told him to go back the way he came. Truman almost believed it, until the police called him by name. The cop who had never met Truman before. How could he possibly know his name? Truman pushed the car door open. No matter what, he had to get out of here. Unfortunately, he was caught in the middle of the road. Truman was sent home. He asked his wife what was going on. She didn't answer the question. She turned around and started selling advertisements.